Hey there, welcome to this fun and super simple guide to HTML. In this video, we're going to learn HTML step by step with 15 easy examples. Whether you're a complete beginner or just curious about how websites are built, you're in the right place. So grab a coffee, relax, and let's start turning code into creativity. Let's start by understanding HTML. To grasp how a website works, we need to first learn HTML. It's the skeleton of any web page, providing the structure for the content, like headings, paragraphs, images, and links. Now, to make this structure look nice, we add CSS. CSS controls the style, everything from colors to spacing and layout. Finally, we use JavaScript to bring interactivity to the page, like buttons, forms, and dynamic content updates. Together, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript form the foundation of every modern website. As we said in this tutorial, we will learn HTML with 15 examples. All right, let's dive in together and create our first HTML page step by step. First, we start with this, doc.html. It's like telling the browser, hey, this is an HTML5 document. Just a little note to set things up properly. Next, we add our HTML tag. This is the main container for everything we're going to put on our page. It's like the frame of a house where all the rooms fit inside. Now, inside the HTML tag, we add a head section. This part doesn't show up directly on the page, but it's super important. It's where we put all the behind-the-scenes stuff. Inside the head, let's add a title tag. This sets the title you see on the browser tab. When we run it, you'll see my first HTML page up there. Right-click on the HTML file to run it. Click on the Copy Path button and then use it in a browser. Cool, right? Okay, now for the fun part, the body tag. This is where all the visible content of your web page goes. Think of it as the place where you can show off your creativity. Inside the body, let's add this. The H1 tag creates large, bold headline text, and the PA tag adds a regular-sized paragraph just below it. Don't forget to save and refresh to see your work come to life on the screen. Look at that, a big welcoming headline and a nice little paragraph underneath. Let's keep going and add even more awesome stuff. All right, let's move on to our second example. First, we add a heading with the H2 tag. H2, my favorite fruits. This creates a nice subheading titled My Favorite Fruits at the top of the page. Now we want to create a list, so we use the ul tag for an unordered list. This tag sets up a list, but it's empty for now. We're going to add items inside it. The first item we want to add is apple. After saving the file and opening it in the browser, we'll see apple displayed on the page. But here's the fun part. Our list can have as many items as we like. So we add apple, banana, and cherry to the list, and after saving and refreshing the page, we see the full list of our favorite fruits. And that's it. We've created a simple, unordered list with multiple items. It's as easy as that. Let's jump into another example. So we started with the basic HTML structure we've been using. Nothing new there. Then I added a heading at the top of the page that says, Let's learn HTML. It's big, bold, and sets the tone for what we're about to do. Now let's add an image to the page. The image I'm using is called html.png, and it's stored in the images folder. Pretty straightforward so far, right? But here's where it gets interesting. I added something called an alt attribute to the image. This little attribute is like a backup plan. If the image doesn't load for some reason, the alt text will be displayed instead. Plus, it's super helpful for people using screen readers because it gives them a description of what the image is about. We saved everything and refreshed the browser. Boom, the image loaded perfectly and it looked great. Let's see what happens when things go wrong. I deliberately changed the file path to point to a folder that doesn't exist and refreshed the page again. And guess what? The image didn't load, but the alt text appeared on the screen instead. So we not only learned how to add images, but also why the alt attribute is so important. Cool, right? Let's try a new example now. We'll start with our basic HTML structure just like we've done before. Then we'll add something new, a link. To create a link, we'll use the A tag. Inside the tag, we'll set the href attribute to the URL we want the link to go to. For this example, we'll link to https://.wikipedia.org. We also want the link to open in a new tab, so we'll add target equals blank. The text that shows up on the page, like Wikipedia, goes between the opening and closing A tags. Once we've added that, we'll save the HTML file and refresh the browser. And voila, the link will appear on the page. When we click on it, it'll open the Wikipedia page in a new tab. How easy is that? All right, let's start a new example together. This time, we're going to create a table to display student grades. We'll add a heading at the top of the page that says Student Grades using the H2 tag. This will make it clear what our table is about. Next, we'll create the outline of the table using the Table tag. To make it look neat, we'll add border equals 1 to give the table a visible border. The table doesn't have any columns yet, so let's fix that. We'll add 2 columns, one for name and one for grade. Once we save the HTML file and refresh the browser, you'll see the column titles appear. Pretty cool, right? But hang on, the table's still empty. Let's make it more interesting by adding some data. I'll add 2 rows, one for John with his grade and one for Jane with hers. After saving and refreshing the page, the table now looks complete with all the data in place. And that's how you can easily add a table with data to an HTML page. Simple and neat. Let's start a new example. This time, we're going to create a simple form for signing up. It's going to be straightforward and fun, so let's get started. We'll add a heading that says Sign Up. This will clearly show what our form is about. Then we'll include a form element, which creates the framework for the form. It's empty right now, but we'll start filling it in step by step. First, let's add a field for the user's name. We'll include a label that says Name and an input box where users can type their name. The BR tag is used to insert a line break, allowing text or elements to start on a new line without creating extra spacing like a paragraph would. Once we've done that, we'll save the HTML file and refresh the browser to see how it's shaping up. Perfect. The name field is now in place. Now let's add another field for the user's email. This part is similar. We'll use a label that says email and an input box specifically for email addresses. To wrap things up, we'll add a submit button so users can send their information. After saving the file and refreshing the browser again, we can see the complete sign-up form ready to use. Nice and easy, right? Let's create a new example together and explore how to style HTML elements. This time, we'll add some flair to our text using inline styles. Sounds fun, right? Let's dive in. First, we'll add a heading, H1 style color blue, text align center. What's different here is the style attribute. The color blue part makes the text blue, and text align center centers the heading on the page. It's a quick and easy way to add some style directly to the element. Next, we'll add a paragraph with its own style. P-style font size 20px color gray. This is a styled paragraph. Here, font size 20px makes the text bigger, and color gray changes its color to gray. It's simple, but it makes a big difference in how the content looks. Let's save our file and refresh the browser. There it is, a blue centered heading with a neatly styled paragraph right below it. Doesn't it look great? Styling with inline styles gives us a lot of control over individual elements, and it's a fantastic way to make your content pop. Let's start a new example together and learn how to style a web page using an external CSS file. We begin with the basic HTML structure, which doesn't have much in it yet. After that, we add a heading and a paragraph in the body of the page. At this point, let's save the HTML file and check the page in the browser. It will display a heading and some text, but it doesn't look styled at all. Next, we move to the head section, where we link our external CSS file. This is done by using the link tag and specifying the path to the CSS file we'll create next. We also add a title for the page inside the head. Then we create a new file named styles.css, where we write all the styles for our page. In this file, we can define things like the background color of the page, the color of the heading, and how the paragraph text should look. First, we add styles for the body. I've chosen to use a simple sans serif Arial and set the background color to a soft light blue. I also added some margin to make sure the content doesn't touch the edges of the page. After saving the file, we go ahead and check the browser. At this point, we'll see that the body of the page looks cleaner, with a nice background and a little space around the content. Next, we move on to styling the heading. We decide to make the heading green, set the text alignment to center, and make the font size larger for emphasis. We save the file again and refresh the browser to see the changes. Now the heading stands out with a fresh green color and it's nicely centered. Finally, we add some styles to the paragraph. We choose a dark gray color for the text to keep it readable, set the font size to 18px for clarity, and increase the line height for better spacing. We also align the text to be justified so it stretches evenly across the width of the page. After saving the CSS file and refreshing the page, we see a nicely styled paragraph with readable, well-spaced text. Now our page has a great look with clean, readable content, thanks to the external CSS. Let's make a new example. You can add any video from your project to the HTML page. In this example, I will use the video.mp4 file. Let's add a heading to the page. We'll use .h2 my favorite video h2 to introduce the video section. Next, we want to embed a video. To do that, we add the video tag and we specify the width and height of the video player. We also add the controls attribute so the user can play, pause, and control the volume of the video. Then, we need to tell the browser where to find the video file. We use the source tag where we specify the file path, video.mp4, and the type of video file, MP4. This allows the browser to load and play the video correctly. If for some reason the browser doesn't support the video tag, we provide a fallback message. Your browser does not support the video tag. After saving the HTML file, we refresh the browser and boom, the video appears on the page. You can play the video, control the playback, and enjoy watching it directly from the browser. This is how you can easily embed a video in an HTML page. Let's create a new example together. This time, we're going to build a simple navigation bar for our HTML page. We add a nav tag inside the body. The nav tag is where our navigation bar will go, but for now, it's empty. Now let's add some links inside the nav tag. I'll include 3 links, one for home, one for about, and one for contact. Each link will have a href attribute pointing to a section of the page. Once we save the file and refresh the browser, we can see the navigation bar with clickable links. It's starting to take shape, but let's make it even better. Next, we move to the head section of the HTML file and add a link tag. This tag connects our HTML file to an external CSS file called styles.css. I also add a title tag with the text navigation bar to give our page a title. Finally, I create the styles.css file so we can style the navigation bar. Now let's bring some style to our navigation bar. Together, we'll step through how to make it look polished and interactive. First, we start by styling the body. In the styles.css file, I set the font to Arial for a clean look and added a light gray background color to the whole page. I also removed any default margins and padding for a more consistent layout. Next, it's time to style the navigation bar itself. I added some rules for the nav tag, giving it a dark background color and making sure it stretches across the page. I also added overflow hidden to keep everything neatly contained and centered the content with text align center. Once again, I saved the file and refreshed the browser, and now the navigation bar has a solid, professional look. Now let's focus on the links inside the navigation bar. I styled the A tags to make the text white for better contrast against the dark background. I also added some padding around the links to create space and made sure there's no underline by setting text decoration none. To arrange the links neatly, I used display inline block. Finally, I added a transition effect so the background color changes smoothly when you hover over a link. After saving and refreshing, you can see how much better the links look now. For the final touch, I added a hover effect for the links. When you move your mouse over a link, its background changes to a nice green color. This makes the navigation bar more interactive and visually appealing. Once I saved and refreshed, the hover effect came to life, completing the look. And that's it. Let's start a new example. This time, we're going to add a button to an HTML page and make it interactive. It's going to be fun. First, let's add a button to the HTML page. At this point, the button is visible, but it doesn't do anything yet. We save the file and refresh the browser to confirm that the button has been added. Now let's make the button interactive. We'll add a little functionality so that when the button is clicked, it triggers an alert box. Once this is added, we save the file and refresh the browser again. Finally, we click the button together and an alert pops up on the screen saying, "Button clicked." It's a simple example, but it shows how you can start adding interactivity to your HTML pages. Let's try something new and add an embedded web page to our HTML. We're going to use an iframe for this example. We started with our basic HTML structure. just an empty body for now. Next, I mentioned that we'll be embedding Wikipedia into our page, and to do that, we'll add an iframe. The iframe lets us display another web page inside our own. I added the line with the circ attribute set to the URL of Wikipedia. I also included width and height attributes to control the size of the embedded content. After saving the file, we refreshed the browser and voila, the Wikipedia homepage appeared right inside our page in a neat little frame. Cool, right? Let's dive into another example and learn how to make an image responsive on a web page. We'll make sure the image adjusts nicely to different screen sizes. We start with a basic HTML structure, just a blank page with an empty body. First, let's add a heading to introduce the image. Now let's add an image to the page. After saving and refreshing, the image appears on the page. But the image is not responsive. That is, when the window shrinks, the image remains the same. It does not adapt. Let's learn how to do this. We want to style this image to make it responsive. We add a head tag to prepare for the styles. Inside the head, we include a style section where we write CSS rules. The style for the IMG tag includes width 50%, max width 400px, and height auto. Finally, we save and refresh the browser. The image now resizes beautifully to fit different screen sizes. It's great to see how a bit of styling can make the page look more polished and professional. Let's create something fun together, a piece of animated text that slides into view. We'll take it step by step, so let's get started. We begin with our basic HTML structure, which is empty for now. Next, let's add a heading inside the body section. I'm going to add an H1 tag with the text animated text. Let's save the file and check the browser. The text appears, but there's no animation yet. Don't worry, we'll fix that. To bring the animation to life, we need to define it in the head section. First, I'll add a style block and create a @keyframes rule called slide-in. Inside this rule, I'll define two keyframes, from and to. In the from state, the text will start with a margin left of 100% positioned off screen and have a width of 300%. In the to state, it will smoothly transition to a margin left of 0% and a width of 100%. Next, let's apply this animation to the H1 tag. I'll add an animation property to make it slide in over 3 seconds. Save the file, refresh the browser, and watch the text slide into place beautifully. It's such a simple yet effective effect, isn't it? Let's build something interactive together. A fun example using HTML's details and summary tags. These elements allow us to create collapsible sections that users can expand or collapse for more information. It's a great way to keep your web page organized and engaging. Ready? Let's dive in. Let's add a heading inside the body section. I'll write H1 details and summary example H1. This will serve as the title for our example. Now we'll add our first collapsible section. I'll create a details tag and leave it empty for now. Let's add a summary tag inside the details tag. This is the clickable part of the collapsible section. I'll write summary, what is HTML summary, and below it, I'll add a paragraph tag with the text, HTML is the language for creating web pages. Let's save and check the browser. Click the summary, and voila, the hidden text appears. Next, we'll add another collapsible section. Below the first details tag, I'll create another one with a summary that says, why use HTML? And a paragraph explaining HTML is easy to learn and very powerful. Now we have two sections you can expand and collapse. Finally, let's add one more collapsible section. This one will have the summary fun fact and the text, the first version of HTML was created in 1993 inside a p tag. Save the file and refresh the browser. Now we have 3 fully functional collapsible sections. Doesn't it look great? We've just gone through 15 examples, each teaching us something new and exciting about HTML. From basic structures to interactive elements, we've explored how versatile and powerful HTML can be. Whether you're creating simple web pages or adding advanced features, these examples give you a strong foundation to build on. Keep practicing, experimenting, and pushing your creativity. You'll be amazed at what you can achieve. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, happy coding.